MicroStrategy now owns over 500,000 Bitcoin. We got the Bitcoin ETFs going on. There's a lot of institutional adoption happening. And it begs the questions if Bitcoin is over for retail investors. In today's video, I want to explain to you why we see that sudden institutional drive, why it's actually a good thing that a lot of companies hold and make the exposure to Bitcoin more simple, and why retail investors still have plenty of time to take a closer look at Bitcoin. As I stated in the intro, MicroStrategy now owns over 500,000 Bitcoin. We got the Bitcoin ETFs. And if you combine all of institutional interest by Wall Street and potentially also nation states, you would have seen in 2024 that a lot of the adoption and push in Bitcoin actually came out of the segment, as shown here in a research report by River Financial. Compare that to now retail interest, and you'll see that that is actually lacking. There was more outflow in that department. And this begs the question why over 80 companies on the traded exchanges, such as maybe Tesla a couple of years ago, MicroStrategy, essentially also BlackRock, and all of these Wall Street firms are now allocating, and if Bitcoin is now up for grabs by institutions. And I'm here to say, you need to take a chill pill at this moment. That is only part of a user adoption when it comes to new technology or something new in the world, generally speaking. In the beginning, you have very early adopters. They see Bitcoin at first, they understand the principles, they use it. You then move into a second wave where you see more of the still early adopters, but they're maybe more fascinated by the tech. They see certain use cases, so they start building that product for that environment. You then really move into a first wave and push of retail interest. We did see this in 2017, we did see it in 2021, and we arguably also saw it during the launch of the ETFs last year. This push is essential because it goes into the next phase where you have a technology or a product that's being used, and then it gets expanded by having businesses who use it. Publicly traded companies especially find Bitcoin appealing because it is arguably an ideal strategic reserve asset rather than investing into bonds and treasury bills, which do give you a return, but they're just basically there to counterbalance what inflation does to your savings. You can actually invest into a reserve asset for the longevity of the company and ideally think about the next 10 to 30 years. This is what's happening with strategy now under Michael Saylor. This is why they're accumulating so fast. And it did take note because the performance worked with other companies as well. Stuff like the ETFs then also helps to get that round pushed into the institutional adoption phase. And that phase then leads to the next thing, because if businesses are using an asset, they are encouraging other businesses to follow the same strategy. If it works, they adopt it faster. And then you get into the phase we're currently in, where potentially even nation states are talking about using said asset. So in a whole, this is all part of the adoption wave. But there are good news for retail investors as well. You should at that point not fear that these institutions are coming. This was inevitable all along. This is just how it happens with these kind of technology and assets in general. But you still have the same options. Because Bitcoin is disinflationary, therefore there's no one that prints more out of it, and there's no other interest in actually holding Bitcoin rather at this point than using it to gain as a reserve for the future. You can actually also follow along and do the same thing, obviously just with a smaller budget. You also, from a technical standpoint, don't have to worry about control or centralization, because at the end of the day, everyone plays according to the same rules. Therefore, that trickle-down effect you're now seeing, where big businesses and even potentially nation states are adopting Bitcoin, will also have a positive effect in the long run on retail investors, because they will realize like, oh, I may have exited this a couple of years ago, but I'm now seeing major developments with big companies, big brands, and big businesses who are seeing a use case in this. Let me get back into it as well. So if there's anything to see about currently in the retail sector, it's just a little dip, again, part of that adoption wave. But I'm sure once we see more perception changes and once people see the actual full potential of Bitcoin, that number will increase as well. But what do you think? Has Bitcoin been captured now by institutional adoption, or again, is it just part of that adoption wave? Let me know in the comment below. And if you have a friend who's eager about these topics but hasn't seen any of our videos yet, Send them the link to our channel as well, where I regularly record topics about these kind of things, and I'm eager to see you in the next video.